I think I'm becoming old. I think I'm becoming old because my level of tolerance is decreasing. I'm becoming much more of a bigot, and I'm losing my temper a lot more often than I should. Like for instance, I was showing this image on Twitter, and I was saying, well, it's actually astonishing to see a father and a son on television when talking about politics. Like, this is just mind-blowing. And immediately, like, the person came up and it's like, well, no, V. You see, Elon Musk is not a representative of the perfect traditional family, and we shouldn't cheer for this. And this is when I'm losing my shit. It's like, listen, you puritanical retard. Baby steps, okay? Like, we're not there yet, but surely this is a step in the right direction, because up until last month, every single time I saw a politician that wanted to impress the public, they would either be like next to an LGBT person, or they would even be single, or whatever. But like the very concept, like the very idea of a father and a son wouldn't be on television. And so like, I'm sorry if it's not the exact same way you want it, but like, can we at least admit that it's a step in the right direction? And like, maybe, I don't know, like maybe in the next administration we can actually see the traditional perfect family that your grandfather was with. But no, like, the reason I'm even talking about this is because people were so demoralized that when a Japanese McDonald's commercial came out that just showed a wholesome family, Twitter lost their shit. Like, they actually lost their marbles. They went into an absolute frenzy. They called the commercial white supremacy. They were, like, absolutely vile, just literally screaming at the picture, like in 1948, those 5 minutes of hate. And so, like, this is what caught my attention, right? Like, seeing Elon with the kid, and of course, like, other people who hate this, they're like, well, this is so unprofessional, la 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 la. Okay, alright. Well, if it's so unprofessional, why isn't his approval ratings dropping? It seems that when it comes to maintaining his image, you can't accuse him of anything. Like, sure, you can call him a grifter on other things, but when it comes to maintaining PR public image, the man is the boss. I mean, his approval ratings are at an all-time high. And so, yeah, like, I just wanted to address the kid in the picture before moving forward. But another interesting take is misinformation, right? Like, this was the greatest sin that you could have committed in the previous administration. Like, they have decided to take it upon themselves in order to root society from wrongthink. So the way things worked is that politicians always speak the truth without any exception. Like, if a piece of information comes from the politicians, it is the science. And speaking lies or disagreeing with the truth that the politicians have said, it would have been akin to heresy. Like, that person required to get banned from social media, required to have his accounts purged, required to face discrimination. And so now there's a new administration, and it turns out that Elon Musk himself has committed the sinful act of misinformation. So, like, let's see how the new administration deals with this subject.
and this is big numbers. Talk about $100 to $200 billion a year.
Sure.
Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV.
So this is like a situation where you have a guy who's coming out from the forest to warn the village that there is a Siberian tiger out there. And so he is warning the villagers not to allow their kids to play in the forest until the situation is taken care of, because the Siberian tiger is very dangerous. And so the leaders of the village hold the guy accountable for spreading misinformation, saying that it's not a Siberian tiger, it's a Bengal tiger. And therefore now you need to be censored, now you need to be discriminated against, now you need to be silenced because he has poisoned the minds of the villagers with falsehoods. And this is a tactic that has been consistently done throughout the Biden administration. Basically, the Democrats could say whatever they wanted, and they would rarely, if ever, get fact-checked. Meanwhile, if you're a right-winger and you got like a single fact wrong, you know, instead of a Bengal tiger, you'd have said Siberian tiger, then that was it. Like, immediately Snopes write articles, fact-checking, information false, you know? And so let's see how Elon Musk is going to deal with this predicament.
So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
I mean, I think, again, this is shaking the very core of the liberal mindset. First of all, he is pointing out, it's like, well, Mozambique is not in the United States, and why are taxpayer money going there? Which is a legit question, because at the end of the day, like, that was the essence of the argument. It's like, how does the average American that's working a 9-to-5 job, how does he exactly benefit by the government taking his taxpayer money and sending them to Mozambique? Like, don't they have charities for that? Don't they have, like, other ways, right? Like, you would think that if the taxes are taken from you by force, at least they would be invested into improving your lifestyle, because that's the agreement. Like, we all pay taxes so that our lifestyle gets improved. Like, we get better roads, we get better job opportunities, we get better security, so on and so forth, right? So this is like the essence of the argument. It's like, well, isn't this a frivolous spending? And especially when the United States is on a deficit, can we really afford to do this, right? Like, that was the question. But regarding, like, the misinformation approach, this is what I love the most. He points out that every single human being on planet Earth, without exception, is going to, at some point, say misinformation. And the question is, like, is the misinformation done out of malice? Or is it simply an error, a mistake, Of course, like, you can make the argument that he should have known better, that his team should have waited and made sure that they dot all the I's and cross all the T's before coming out with that. But, like, I don't know a single person in my life that, in their day-to-day activities don't at some point say something that isn't true. Like, seriously, do you guys know anyone, like anyone on planet Earth that at some point doesn't make mistakes and claims something that's not true? Because I personally generally don't, right? And so, like, why shouldn't we assume that our leaders and politicians, who last time I checked are still human, I know that some people like to think that the government is God, but unfortunately, it's still ran by humans. And of course, like, the government can make mistakes. Now, when the government makes mistakes, like, obviously, the consequences are much higher. However, in this particular situation, like, yeah, okay, he was wrong. And he admits he is wrong, and that's the important fact, right? Because the previous administration would never, under any circumstance, admit that they are wrong. So I have more respect for a politician that fucks up and then claims that they were wrong than a politician that is never wrong. Because such a thing, by definition, cannot exist, which means that the politician is flat out lying to me, or he is being groomed and coached by various PR companies in order to look good on cameras, but in reality, that's not the type of person they are. And so, this is a really good observation. It's like, of course, I am wrong. Now, the question is, like, how do you, as a person, know if a politician is wrong or not? Well, you're supposed to have critical thinking. You're supposed to learn critical thinking, because if you don't have critical thinking, you will have other people that think for you, and other people have other interests and other priorities than you have. Sometimes they can be contradicting. And so, like, imagine if America stopped thinking and China started thinking on behalf of America. Would that be a good situation? Of course not, right? So, like, why is it that at an individual level, at the human being level, we can't apply the exact same principle? And so, the same way that when you go to a car salesman, you use critical thinking in order to assess whether the car is good or not. When you go to a bank to make a loan, you use critical thinking in order to realize if the bank loan is good or not. The same way when a politician speaks, you're supposed to use critical thinking in order to figure out if what they're saying is good or not. Of course, some people will be wrong, but such is life. Such is life. If you can't convince people, if you can't persuade people, then you don't like a democracy, you know? Then have a dictatorial regime, have a dictatorship, and whatever the dictator says, whether it's true or not, goes. So yeah, really good way of handling. I do like the optics. Like if a politician or, you know, someone associated with the government would come up with a kid 20 or 30 years ago, it would have been cringe because it feels like pandering. It's like, look, I'm a parent just like you guys. But in this context, in 2025, I do think it's actually good to start normalizing the idea that people can have a family. Like, you start to show to the world, it's like, yes, I have a family, I'm actually raising a kid. Now, I understand Elon Musk, not the perfect example because he has different kids with different wives. Like, I know the situation. But it is a step in the right direction. Just take the W, you know? Like, insist that the next person at least does a little bit more than Elon Musk. I mean, again, like it's still a better way than it was yesterday. I don't understand this, like, totalitarian mindset. It's like, imagine you're in World War II, since people on Twitter really love World War II comparisons, and you're on the beaches of Normandy, you're storming Normandy, and you're victorious, and you call in to the Central Command, and you're relaying the victory, and the Central Command is absolutely disgusted with you because you're still not in Paris. And you're like, well, we just took the beach. It's like, well, you're not in Paris. So if you're not in Paris, it doesn't fucking count. The war is still lost. Germany is still dominating Europe. We haven't made any single progress. It's like, you're fucking insane. It's like small victories, right? Like with small, tiny victories put together, you lead the ship in the right direction. At this point, like, considering that the previous administration would have never promoted this type of family image, especially not between a father and a son, I consider that this is a win. I don't know why people are fighting against this, but whatever. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.